All right, everybody, welcome to Unscripted One-on-One podcast. And today I've got a very special guest, and we were technically just chatting, literally technically just chatting. And he is an audiophile. And so he audiophile. Did I say that right? I want to make sure I get that right, because that
You
could
said
go
autofile, and I think an autofile would be someone who knows about cars.
Okay, so he is
definitely
an audiophile. He knows music and he knows sound, and his mic is going to sound a lot better than mine. Let's just put it that way. Just in case so there's no rumors or that doesn't go somewhere it doesn't need to go. So anyway, I got my good friend, Mr. Corby LaCroix, on today. Corby, why don't you introduce yourself? Tell us a little bit about your family, and then we'll roll from there.
Well, it's good to be on with you. My name is Corby LaCroix. I'm a native Texan, specifically the Dallas area. Go Cowboys, maybe. I mean, we'll see what happens. It's looking pretty ugly so far. So I'm the worship pastor at Northwest Bible Church in Hilliard, and have been here since 2013. Me and my family moved here from the Dallas area in November of 2013 from our native Texas. My wife is the best part of me. She and I have been married for 23 years. We've got 3 kids, 3 teenagers, almost the exact same age as your kids.
Mm-hmm.
Our oldest, Jacob, is a sophomore at Cedarville University. He's a biblical studies major. Our middle child, Abby, is a varsity cheerleader at Hilliard-Davidson and is involved in all kinds of stuff there. And then our youngest, Kate, is a 10th grader at Hilliard-Davidson. And that's our crew. Ministry brought us here to Ohio. We never thought we'd leave Texas, but here we are. And through moving here and our sons actually becoming friends, that's how you and I got to know each other.
Right.
And so here we are 7 years into our lives in Central Ohio, and it's been really, really interesting.
Yeah.
All the way around.
It's been 7 years. I mean, I honestly, I would have guessed like 3 or 4. It feels like it that went really fast.
Yeah, it did go really fast. And I should probably expand upon the ministry part. I'm the worship pastor, which I don't know if I said that.
Yes.
I'm the music guy. So so I play guitar and sing, and that's my day job and my hobby at the same time.
Absolutely. And that's where I want to start. So we segued really well there, unscripted, but so take me on the journey, because I have since day one, and you and I text on a regular basis. We love us some 90s country music. And man, you were on that scene for a while, right? You lived a life, you had dreams and aspirations. So can you take us, and that's Unscripted is all about stories. And I'm fascinated to hear your story. Let's start there, and then let's just bring it on up to where we are today and what led you to that.
So that is a potentially really long story. So I'm going to try and be really brief and hit the high points. So I got into, I've been singing for as long as I can remember. But I didn't start playing guitar until my senior year in high school, which by most accounts is, I guess, a pretty late. I guess I was a late bloomer as far as guitar goes. Can you still hear me when I push this button?
Absolutely.
All right. Then I won't worry about pushing this button. So I was into singing growing up. I was in, I guess, plays and little choirs in elementary school and whatnot. But it wasn't until I hit my senior year in high school and gave basketball up and decided I was a better musician than a basketball player. That was when I really started thinking that, hey, maybe I want to make a career out of this or have a go at it. And growing up in Texas, there's lots of country music, and I just had a love for it. And I started learning on guitar. I started learning on my favorite country songs, and I I guess fast forward to college, and long story short, I ended up at this junior college in Waco, Texas, that I only went there because my girlfriend at the time, who's now my wife, went to Baylor University in Waco, and McLennan Community College was the only other game in town, and we couldn't afford Baylor, and I didn't know what I wanted to do, but I knew that I was interested in music. But so I go to MCC. They had a great baseball program, by the way.
Nice.
Little known fact. But turns out it's one of only two colleges in the entire state of Texas at the time that had this music program that was focused on what they called commercial music. And so you could literally major in commercial music, and it was specifically tailored for people who wanted to either go into like music production or music performance. And you would basically study the music business and how to break into the music business, the commercial music business. And so I started on this degree plan. I formed a band. Things started happening. We started playing around Waco. One of my professors at MCC became my first manager, and we started booking shows, and it just started really happening quickly. And we found ourselves opening up for nationally touring acts. And this was in the late part of the 90s, like from 95 to the end of the 90s. It's just an incredible time for country music, and my favorite era of country music easily. Garth was doing his thing, but it hadn't gotten to this point to where it was just off the rails, which in my opinion is where we are now in country music. But it was like, it was starting to expand because Garth was huge and he was crossing over and all this stuff. But there was still this you just had guys like Alan Jackson and, my goodness, country guys, Mark Chestnut, and you had these awesome bands like Shenandoah and Little Texas, and like they were just putting out good stuff, and it was just a great era. George Strait was huge and still is and had been for years, and putting out awesome stuff in the 90s, just incredible hits. And so formed a band, and we started playing around and stuff started happening. And I really thought this was 97, 98, 99. I thought that we got real close. So we got real close to a pretty major deal, and God had other plans for my life. And he pulled me out of that one night. I remember very clearly. Came as a shock to my band. But it just, there are times in your life when stuff hits you like a ton of bricks, and you change directions, and you don't really see at the time, but you just know you're not supposed to be continuing down the road you're going down. And the Lord directs our steps, and he kind of turned me around. And so I gave that pursuit up, just kind of cold turkey. I mean, we played out the remainder of our dates that were on the calendar at the time, which took us through the first part of 2000. But that, it was just it was a weird thing. It was like, I can't really explain it, but I was on this trajectory and I really wanted it. And then I didn't. and I can't really explain why, other than it was just a God thing. And so that turning away of that musical genre lifestyle, I still love the genre. I started getting into, worship music, and I was a Christian at the time. I got saved when I was 13, so it wasn't like I was playing all these bars and festivals and stuff as a person who didn't know the Lord. I just thought, hey, I'm gonna be a light in a dark place, so to speak.
Right.
And not that every place was dark, but there were some dark places. Yeah. And I guess the Lord just had other plans for my life. I know he did. And so that turning away of country music got me into worship music, and I started leading worship at the church I was going to at the time. that just became a career in worship ministry, which became a career in full-time ministry. And that eventually led us here. And so I've been doing this, well, at this church for 7 years, at the previous church for 5 years officially, and 2 or 3 years before that is when I really started. So I guess for about 15 years, I've been leading worship in some capacity.
Yeah.
So that's kind of that's a huge 30,000 foot view. There was all kinds of details in there, but yeah, that was the golden, for guys like us, that was the golden age of country music.
Yeah.
90s. Cause I mean, I'm not even scratching the surface. I mean, Keith Whitley and my goodness, just amazing songs and amazing writing. And so, yeah, Tracy Lawrence was one of my favorites. And so.
Yeah, didn't you? So, and hang on, I'm going to put a pin there because I want to come back to it, but because I don't want people to miss what you just said. You were right on the edge of what so many people dream for, right? You felt like that was going to be it for you. And I'm going to tell this audience in case they haven't, and it'll be in the post below. And I already teased it a little bit, but if you want to hear this guy sing, there's that one that you put out that's on YouTube and I'm not kidding you. I said that on your birthday. By the way, happy belated birthday. I know it was.
Thank you.
I wasn't kidding. I put that thing on loop. And the other day I had it on and Emma came in and she goes, "Is that Corby singing?" She could tell you have a distinct voice and an incredible gift. And
that's awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, you know, and I'll put that in there so people can hear it. But I don't think you want to. I'm not going to say you missed your calling because you definitely didn't. I think you're right where you're supposed to be. But pretty amazing to me, and I've always been amazed by that. And now we'll jump. I'll take the pin out now. So you've told me, right? Dixie Chicks. Did you not open for Dixie Chicks?
We did. Yeah. That was when they had one song on the radio at the time. They didn't have a tour bus yet. Like there was literally an RV, like a Winnebago in the behind the club. Like they were just getting ready to hit it big. Gosh, what was that? Their first hit. Man, it was their first. I mean, their very, very first hit.
What's that? Trouble? I think it was "There's Your Trouble."
There's your trouble. Yeah. Yeah.
I know my Dixie Chicks, and it was before they insulted George Bush, which now
well before that.
And now we're going to go way off track. But I always have this point. Think about where we are as a country, and this is a whole nother podcast. But this band was not even on American soil, and the worst thing that they said was, "We're embarrassed of our president because he's from Texas." Their career has never been the same. And I know they got a new album out and everything else, but those were the words, not breathed on American soil, and they were destroyed for it. And now think about where we are today and what you read about, whether it's the president before this one or our current president. I don't care what side of the aisle you're on. Wow, have we expanded a bit from those days. Anyway, completely different train wreck. I'll come back now, but sorry. And that it doesn't matter, and that's whether you like the Dixie Chicks or not. Think about the wow, have we really widened our acceptance of what we can say about a sitting president? Okay, rant over, sermon over. Back to Mr. LaCroix. That was a commercial break.
Good to be with you.
That was a commercial break for the Dixie Chicks. No, Tracy Lawrence, you mentioned. I know you had some stories with Tracy Lawrence, right?
Yep. Yeah, that was in 97. And like his big hit at the time was a song called "Time Marches On," which was a little bit different for him. It was a vibe that was a bit different for him at the time. You know, he was pretty much a neo-traditionalist. You know, he was, you know, hat and starched jeans, and you know, he was the younger, a little bit edgier George Strait at the time. Had some amazing songs, but I don't know, maybe two or three albums into his career, he releases this maybe fourth album even. It's "Time Marches On," and I remember that being the big hit at the time when we opened for him. But yeah, we did shows with a lot of those, and some of the guys that we played shows with. I mean, you would recognize their names. because you're a, you're a connoisseur
Junkie.
of 90s. But a lot of people would be like, I don't know if I remember, like names like David Kirsch
Mhm.
and like Wade Hayes and some of these Rick Trevino.
Oh goodness, yeah. That
Um,
ain't my truck.
that was Rhett Akins. That was Rhett Akins that did That Ain't My Truck, and
Oh,
we
you're
opened for
right.
that guy too.
You're right. Yep. Red
Um,
Akins.
yeah, Rhett Akins, and then Gary Allen was another one.
Give me some
Um,
Gary Allen.
Diamond Rio was a killer band at the time.
So good. Yep.
Yeah, so we just had these opportunities to get in front of people who were really there to see not the opening, but they were really there to see the headliner, and then we'd show up and we'd be in front of them, and just got us. Just got, things just started happening. Trace Adkins was another one. My goodness, I've lost track of them, but we played for a lot of people, and we just tried to play as much as we could, but yeah, that was our slogan on our t-shirts at the time was keeping it country, because I could kind of see the writing on the wall that country was moving towards a different place, and I didn't like it because we were playing like Merle Haggard, and we were playing traditional, like we were playing older George Strait stuff at the time, and a lot of the clubs that we'd play at, they'd want us to do top 40 radio stuff.
Right.
Man, if we were playing today, like you wouldn't even recognize us as a country band. Like it would just be, it would be a mess. But keeping it country, man, that was our motto. So we tried to keep it country, and
What was the name of the band?
it was my name, Corby LaCroix, and Cutting Loose.
Cutting
That
Loose.
was cutting loose. That was the name, and yeah, so many memories, man. Crazy time.
Well, it's awesome. And so, all right, I have 3 questions, and then I want to shift to where we are today,
Yeah.
because I think that's also important. So 3 questions: your least favorite current country singer, your
Oh,
favorite all-time country singer, and how many instruments do you currently play?
okay. So I'll tackle the easy one first. How many instruments do I currently play? Well, technically one, because I play guitar. I've been known to pick up the banjo and the mandolin as well, but those are 6-string versions of those instruments. So it's technically like tuned like a guitar. I can play the drums, but everybody can play the drums.
Kind of, yeah.
So really, I'm just a singer and a guitar player. If it's got strings on it, I can play it, just not really as well as guitar.
Well, so let me interrupt you real quick, because you're being humble. It wasn't uncommon to walk in on Sunday morning and see Corby with some other form of a string instrument.
Yes.
And
Yes.
rip it up. So he can rip up some electric guitar,
acoustic guitar. Yep.
mandolin, all of it.
Yep.
You can play some guitar now. So while it sounds like, yeah, I could just play guitar, yeah, come on, there's a lot happening up there, and so props where it's due. There's a lot going on.
Well, thank you. Yes, acoustic guitar, electric guitar. I guess technically banjo, mandolin. But I'm not one of these guys that can, play keys and guitar and drums and like just multi instrument. I know guys like that, and they're just ridiculous. But I'm more of a, if you can hold it like this, I'm that guy.
Well, I'd be happy just to be able to play a bar chord, because I'm still rolling with 3 chords in the truth. So,
Well, that's a great segue to answer your next question, which is who's my favorite country singer of all time. See, well, I'll just back up. Who's my least favorite current country singer?
I already know who this is, I think.
Well, but here's the thing: like I don't know enough about current country music to really have a really informed opinion on that, because I honestly, man, over the last several years, I've been out.
Yeah.
Like out on country music. But the I don't have my finger on the pulse of current country music, and I haven't for a number of years, but I guess I do know a little bit about some of the current people, and I don't really like many of them at all. Least favorite current country singer, man. Probably. So I'm not, here's the problem.
That's a great question.
Some of the stuff though is cool music. It's just not country, you
Yeah.
know? So like I would have told you like that I can't stand Sam Hunt. Okay. But like my daughters love this song of his that's I mean it's a cool song. It's like it's ridiculous. Like it's not country at all. But for what it is, it's super cool. And it's very cleverly written. And it's got a title that escapes me. You probably know all the lyrics to it. But it's
I sing it to you right now.
yeah, it's got that sampled old guy singing at the very beginning. It sounds like it's from 1920s. Um, uh, oh man, something about you're making it hard to something.
Just identified like half the current country catalog.
Anyway, but I probably oh man, Luke Bryan maybe.
Yeah. Okay. I'm okay. I thought you were gonna say Eric Church. I know we've talked.
No. See, Eric Church is cool, man. Like he's a
Awesome.
cool. He's
Okay.
he's just. I mean, he's intense,
Big time.
and he doesn't mess around, and I appreciate that about him. And I think he's a great writer. So I can't really knock Eric Church. I just don't like.
But he's not 90s country. It's not the same.
No, he's kind of an outlaw, and I dig that and I respect that. I can't stand just the bro stuff, I guess, that's out right now. And like and I just Luke, if you're watching, I love you, but I don't like your voice.
We're not there yet. We're not there yet. I don't think he'll stumble on this one. I think we're safe.
Yeah.
So with that, your favorite country artist all time?
Favorite country artist of all time. Oh. Well, being from Texas, George Strait is the king. He's the king. And so I would probably say George Strait. He's got to be my favorite country artist of all time. It's just his longevity, his voice. He's not really a writer, and he's not really a musician. I mean, he stands there and just kind of holds the guitar, and like, who knows if it's really plugged in?
Plugged in.
But like the songs, man, like, and just the whole, yeah, he's it. But I would say him or Alan Jackson. Like Alan Jackson to me, especially in his prime, was like, if you want a clinic on how to sing country music, like the voice, the golden voice, for me it was Alan Jackson, like back in the Someday, like just the Don't Rock the Jukebox era. I mean, my goodness, just
Dallas.
killer. Yeah, Dallas and
in the real world. we could go on a Alan Strait or Alan Jackson, man. Yeah, so good.
So the golden voice, and but that was my wheelhouse at the time, like Merle Haggard, much the same way, like those three would probably, maybe Keith Whitley in there, but probably George Strait. Just those songs, man. I mean, just and he's kind of kept it real,
Yeah,
really.
And I think in the 90s they told stories, and now it's the same story re-racked, rebaked, remixed, and put back out again. And I love today's stuff. I do. Like, I like all the guys. Jason Aldean. I mean, we used to follow Jason Aldean around like the Grateful Dead for a while with Austin when he was probably too young to be at those kind of concerts. Yeah. And
I'll tell you this, man, dude, Hicktown slaps. I don't
Mhm.
care who you are. Like, dude, I got to give it to like I think that was his first hit, and
Mhm.
I heard that I was like, dang, I got to learn this guitar riff,
Yeah.
this intro riff, man. It was just so yeah.
Yeah, but they don't tell stories like they used to. And even the old Garth stuff, like I listen to Garth radio on Sirius a lot, and he plays a lot of the older '90s stuff sometimes. And you
Mhm.
hear those songs, and you're like, man, they used to tell story, like, it just, there was something to that I know a lot of people think it's all about divorces and getting everything back. You get your car back, your wife back thing when you play it backwards, the old joke. But it was about telling stories, and those stories connected with people, and for some of us they became the soundtrack of our lives in those days, for me. So but that and all that was awesome. We could probably go on for hours about that, but I
Oh yeah,
don't want to miss, and you guys gotta understand, Corby and I will typically text each other every so often when we're doing whatever it is that song comes on, that, and we'll screenshot it and send it over and say, or send over a lyric, and then see if the other one can guess it and how quick. So we definitely keep up with the '90s. We'll never let it go. So, but I want to talk about how you've transitioned into worship, because you do lead worship now, and not only that, but can you talk about the recording for VBS and things like that? Those other projects that you've now found yourself and poured yourself into.
yeah. So it was a weird transition for me because I was used to playing in clubs and bars, um, and people dancing, and like you're there kind of to make a name for yourself. And so the transition to getting into church music was interesting, and I had to really try and figure out how not to act and sound and look like a country singer. And so I was able to really kind of to cut my teeth, so to speak, under the leadership of the worship leader who was getting close to retirement at the time, but he let me kind of get a foot in the door and start playing acoustic guitar off to the side a little bit, and just kind of get a feel for what it was like to just, I was used to just playing in a country band in a really smoky room with a sawdust dance floor and a jukebox in the corner, like, and neon lights everywhere and really loud, and people just, you know, doing their thing, and some of them heavily inebriated and some of them not.
Right,
So
right.
then all of a sudden it was just a completely different vibe altogether. And so I had to learn how to play differently and sing differently, but learn what it means to lead worship, and like to worship the Lord in music, because I had never been a part of it as a player. And so this guy named Tom, he helped me kind of come along for the ride and see and let me observe how he was doing it, and how he would engage the congregation, and the things that he would emphasize and that challenge me to do. Um, and and so I slowly began to work up to the point of maybe I would be the featured vocalist on a song every so often, and I would get a chance to kind of lead that song myself, and and that just kind of became, in the church I was at the time was a very low key, laid back place. It wasn't like a big thing to where that turned out to be in my favor, because I was able to learn how to do it on that stage, and there wasn't a lot of pressure. It was a fairly good sized church, but it was just kind of a big living room, kind of a family. I mean, we met in a gym, a converted basketball gym. It was carpeted, and there was a stage on one sideline, basically.
Sanctinasium.
And what's that?
A sanctinasium.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, we actually would call it that sometimes. Sanctionasium, yeah. And we'd set up chairs every week, and it was just a very just a kind of a chilled out place. And so it was really cool. Um, and that's actually, I actually when he retired, I mentioned he was getting close to retirement. I became one of the people that had, applied to fill his shoes and to transition into, because at the time he was a part-time guy. They were making it a full-time position, and they were making it a salaried position. And so I went for it, and I ended up getting it. And it was just, it was just a great way for me to get my feet wet, and then it become a career all in the same place. It was really cool. So I was able to just learn how to lead worship on that stage. And I was the worship pastor there for 5 years before moving here. And yeah, so am I answering the question? I'm trying to remember
Yeah, absolutely.
If I really touching on what you were getting at with your question, and I'm kind of rambling a little bit, but yeah, and that's where I kind of started learning how to build into other musicians and help them, because we had a youth group at that church that was full of really musically inclined kids. And so I would find myself on Wednesday nights kind of sitting in with them over in the student area. We had actually a student building where our youth ministries took place. And it was an opportunity for me to kind of stay young, and like hang out with those kids and show them a thing or two on guitar and sing harmonies with them when they were leading. And it helped me to figure out how to bring along a younger musician and how they learn and how they don't, and what they respond to and what they don't, and just musically speaking. And so I find myself giving guitar lessons and vocal lessons and bringing up younger players, and they would end up in the big stage on Sunday morning playing behind us. And so just, yeah. And that was all, just learning as I went, it's like, but that whole experience, I think, prepared me for what I'm doing now. And kind of doing a lot of the same things. You mentioned VBS, and that's kind of a bit of a tangent, but I can go there real quick and just say that shortly after moving here, I didn't know it at the time, but after we got here to Northwest, Northwest Bible is heavily connected to Answers in Genesis, AIG, and they put out a VBS curriculum every year. And two of our staff members do a lot of their writing for them. And so I come in, and I'm a musical guy, and they're trying to figure out what they want to do with their music, their VBS music, because they're not 100% satisfied with how it's going. So they ask me if I want to think about writing kids VBS songs. And that had never been something that I had ever even imagined I would be involved in, and was scared to death when I said, sure, I'll try it. Mm-hmm. But luckily, through my efforts I completely ignore this whole part of my story, but in the couple of years leading up to me moving, I had released a couple of Christian albums. And through that process, I had gotten really tight with some people in Nashville who I now work with, and work directly and indirectly with, to produce these VBS songs for AIG for the last 6 years. And it's been a network that, it's like I transitioned from country music to Christian music to worship leading to producing kids music, and it's all just kind of been this seamless thing. And yeah, the Lord has really allowed me to use a lot of the things that I was doing back in the day and just integrate them into what I'm doing now. Had never even thought about writing kids music, man. Mm-hmm. Not in a million years would I've thought it, but through my connections in Nashville, I was able to get teamed up with a couple of guys who that's what they do. Mm-hmm. And so we were able to just pool our collective talents together. And so I ended up being the executive producer on this project every year. And so it's been really, really interesting to see. Man, we do not know where we're going, but if we're just obedient
Mhm.
and we just turn our feet in the direction that the Lord calls us to go, even though we're not exactly sure where that's going to take us, as long as we just are willing to go in that direction. It's like, Bible says he'll be a lamp unto our feet, a light unto our path. And so I take that to mean he's going to show me a couple of steps at a time.
Mhm. Right.
And I take those steps, and then he shows me another couple of steps, as long as I'm going in the direction that he's got me. And so I've tried to do that over the last few years, and just to see what door opens as a result. And so that's how that's all went down. Like, I don't know where I'm going to be next week. But God does. And so I'm going to keep going in the direction he's taking me, and I'll find out when I get there.
Yeah, and there's so many things that I thought of as you were doing that and talking, and I think you wrapped it up perfectly. I mean, I can't believe our time has flown by already, because I'd love to sit and talk more. But and I'm not kicking you off by any means, but there was a few things I wanted to go back and touch on, because I think you wrapped it up perfectly. You took us through the entire journey as to where you are today from where you were, and the first thing that I thought of was the two things that I always think of is you have to be available and you have to be obedient. You got to be available for wherever he sends you, and obedient to say, okay, I'm going to go. I don't know if I like this idea. This isn't what I had in mind. This is not how I pictured it. It's never how you draw it up sometimes, but those two things you've been, and look at where that has taken you in your career. That's number one. Number two, the first time, those that follow me on Twitter know that I tweet quite often on a Sunday, Calvary covers it all. And the first time I ever heard that song was when you sang it, and I was rocked. It's such a simple phrase, simple phrase, and three small words that huge meaning. And so thank you for introducing me to Calvary Covers It All. And last but not least, I want to tell the story before we check out, that I texted you a few weeks ago. A common friend of ours had a family member that was, as I said, taking her final breaths, and I don't know the whole story, but I know what the social media story version that I saw. And you went to that hospital room, you knelt down by her bed, and you sang her favorite hymns a cappella. And to see that online on social media, I sent you a text and I said, man, when it's my turn, whenever that is,
yeah,
I want you to walk me home too, because that was incredible. We talked about old country music, and I think we could say the same things on the worship side too. There's some great worship music now, and it's awesome what we're doing with lights and stages and smoke lamps, and it is where we are, and I'm not knocking today's worship music by any means, but not by any means. But man, the old hymns are almost like old country music. They told a story, and to hear you, just do that, and that meant a lot to that family, and anybody that saw it. It was powerful, and so thank you. I know it wasn't even my family, but thank you for sharing that with even us. Again, like I said, whenever it's my turn, I'm gonna have to send you a text and say, "Come on," because I can't think any other way to exit here and hopefully enter eternity than with a voice like yours and songs like that.
Man, thank you for saying that. And it was weird to see that. I remember being there and singing, and there was a room full of people, and but I don't even remember there being a phone out capturing that. Like, I guess I wasn't really paying attention to that. But that was May Daniels, and she loved to worship, and I could just tell you story after story. She and I just became really special friends over the last few years, and she would just tell it like it is, and she would just grab me by the arm in the foyer at church and tell me what songs I needed to be playing, And she would shoot straight. Like she would message me from time to time, and but just to be with her and to sing some of her favorite songs with her in those final days and hours even, I won't forget that. And if that ministers to someone else, man, praise the Lord for that. But it was weird to go back, because I didn't realize it had been recorded.
Yeah.
Or I don't remember realizing it at the time. It's kind of a blur. So, I mean, when you're in those situations, and man, but I'll tell you, I don't know that I've told anybody this. Maybe a couple of people, just to give you a glimpse into the kind of woman she was that night. So that was actually at her house. There was the hospital bed was in her living room.
Okay.
So I'm sitting there and she can barely get a word out, but I could tell she's telling me something. I lean close, and she is in the midst of all of us singing these songs together. And I bet there was 30 people in the room. She wanted me to tell the story of the day I got saved and announce it to the room.
Wow.
He said, it would take her, she would take a breath and she'd say a word or two. She'd take a breath and say a word or two. Take a breath, say a word or two. Tell the people about the day you got saved so they can hear your story. Like I'm like, are you kidding me right now? Like,
right.
We're here for you.
Yeah.
and so okay, everybody,
gather around.
he wants me to tell you my story, the day I got saved. And so I'm going to honor that, and I'm going to tell you my testimony, right? And I just thought that was incredible. Like she was shifting the focus away from herself, and she wanted me to tell the story. And I just, man, I want to be that way. Like I want to be about other people and knowing their stories and hearing what God has done in their life. Man, I just know what she's thinking. I know where I'm going. Let's not talk about me.
Yeah.
Let's talk about you. And man, it was crazy, man. It was awesome. It was awesome. So,
well, to be that secure, that you're that secure in where you're going, wherever that next breath may be, is pretty powerful. So, well, we love you guys. We are thrilled you're here. I know you mentioned it. Our kids are close. And that's always been fun, because they are almost mirror images age-wise, and they've literally grown up together 7 years. It's hard to believe, but we love seeing you in this town. I love the impact that you've had here between VBS and worshiping on Sunday mornings, a song like Calvary Covers It All, to where you just recently talked about, man, you've left your fingerprints all over the town, and I know it was hard to leave Texas, that's what you guys have known, and where your heart is. And but man, you've certainly not ever shown that here, and you've left your mark here. So we love you guys. I really appreciate you coming on with me today.
Praise God, man. It was a pleasure to be on with you, man.
Very cool. We'll
Anytime.
do it again, and then we'll really dig into that. We'll have to do a 90s country one only, and have to break into a song. Yeah. All right. See, I was going to go again. I'll stop it. I'm going to tease it, because we'll have to do that next time.
Only if we can do my top 5 steel guitar intros of all time.
Awesome. All right. We already have the startings of the next podcast. So thank you, my friend. Thank you so much. We appreciate you, and we'll look forward to talking to you soon.
Absolutely, man.
All right, bro.
Peace.